Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. Some progressives in Germany have created a shocking new hashtag, the flockdown, or well, in English it should maybe be called the flakedown, which means that they try to imply that we have a severe snow situation, a severe winter condition right now in Germany, and this is why people should stay at home anyway. And when we all stay locked up for 1 week because of the snow, of course, then this horrible virus will be gone also, of course. So there are human beings as well as journalists in Germany who are actually happy about this snow chaos that we have here, because in their brave and stunning minds that would mean it will lead to people stay at home more, and that will combat the pandemic. In today's video, I first want to explain this interesting weather phenomenon that we have right now in the northern hemisphere. I keep it brief, I promise. Then I will tell you how the media political establishment is trying to, well, I should say weaponize that in order to do what they always do, push their agenda and get what they want by using deception and lies. And then in the end, I want to rant a little bit about the different subjective perceptions that people have when it comes to things like snowfall. And while of course there is some personal variation here and there is an underlying trend that cannot be denied, at least in the Western world. So this is not the first time that I talk about the weather. I made a video on a typhoon when I was in Japan, for example, and it hit us. And I think I also made a video, a very early video of mine, about the Swedish snowplow disaster. That's when the feminists tried to prioritize the plowing so that they are first, because they just needed it so badly and they wanted to go first before everybody else. But before we really get into it, I want to thank my supporters and my subscribers once again. If you like my material, please like, share and subscribe, and especially check me out on alternative social media platforms. If you like to support my work, you can do so directly via PayPal or via Patreon or Subscribestar. Links are down in the descriptions below. Okay, so while in Germany at least February is normally the coldest month of the year, what we're seeing right now in Germany is admittedly a little bit non-standard. That doesn't mean that it never happened before. Something like that already happened in the winter 1978 to 79, and the phenomenon is called a split of the polar vortex. On the North and the South Pole, we have cyclones, the polar vortices, and at the North Pole, it is running counterclockwise. At the South Pole, it is running clockwise. When this effect is very strong and pronounced, you have a singular, well-confined cyclone that is surrounded or enclosed by the jet stream, and it is strongest in winter. It is not the same every year, and also in springtime, it normally weakens or breaks up into smaller vortices. And what we see right now is also one of these splittings. So this big winter vortex split up into several smaller vortices, and while warmer air leaks in there, so to speak, also cold air reaches further down south. The cold polar air is no longer well confined, but it is getting south. And what we saw on this weekend in Germany was that there was a split in Germany between very cold air in the north and comparatively warm air for the month of February in the south. And this is very unusual. Normally in the north of Germany you have very moderate temperatures because it is at sea level and also because it is close to the ocean, while in the south you have higher altitudes above sea level, like 300 to 600 meters or something, and there you have a more continental-like winter climate that is of course much colder, and there is a lot of snow also. And I have to say that at least for Germany it is very unusual to have a lot of snow in places like Flensburg or Hamburg maybe, but as I said, in 1998 to 97, in that winter, it was already happening, for example, and it was much more severe, much more pronounced back then than it is today. And as I said in the beginning, the media is jazzing it up like crazy. So what we have in places now is like 20 centimeters of snow snow. Yeah, or half a foot of snow in one night. Ooh, that's so scary. And they're using words like disaster and catastrophe and snowstorm, and no, it's just a little bit of snow. That's all it is. Yes, maybe it is unusual for Hamburg, but it's still not a catastrophe. It's still just 10 centimeters or 20 centimeters. So as I said, there is a journalist, for example, that writes with the hashtag flockdown. So that means flake down or something. It is a word that is made from the word for snowflake, Flocke, yeah, and lockdown, flockdown, haha, very funny. And as I mentioned in the introduction, her hope is that people just stay at home and then the quarantine and the lockdown will be done because of the winter and because of the snow and because the roads are dangerous and impassable. And I have my suspicions that our leadership is actually very happy about this weather. And I must say that I also made the observation, and I don't have any objective or statistically relevant or representative data on that, but I just made the observation that in some places that I know of, they were rather reluctant, let's say, to clear the roads. And maybe that has a political motivation. Because let me tell you, Germany as a rule is very well prepared for extreme masses of snow. And we have extremely powerful equipment that will clear any amount of snow and also put salt automatically on the road so that the melting point is lowered and you will have clear roads. And this works like a charm normally, but this year, this weekend, for example, and the beginning of this week, I saw a lot of roads that were completely uncleared, and in areas where they have these massive snow plows and these heavy machines that are normally used to clear the snow in a matter of minutes. So maybe our dear government, or let's say some communities here and there, they also think that a flockdown is actually a very good idea, and if people can't get to work, well, then they have to practice social distancing, and contact bans will not be bans, but you should stay at home for your own safety because of the snow, of course. So while it is of course dangerous to drive on snow, especially if you're not used to it or if you don't have the equipment, I have to say that in the south of Germany we have winter tires on in winter. Our cars are equipped with winter tires. We have to change them in autumn, and normally people also own snow chains. That means chains that you put around your tires that allow you to slowly but safely make it over a snowed-in or icy inclined road. Many years ago, for example, I drove up to a cottage in the Alps, and it was a very steep road and it was icy and there was half a meter of snow on the road, but nevertheless, with these snow tires, I safely made it up there. It wasn't a big problem. Of course, if people are speeding while they are having summer tires on their cars, or if they're driving as if the snow just wasn't there, yeah, sure, then this will lead to accidents, of course, as we've seen. I think on Saturday or on Sunday it was, there were like over 200 accidents in North Rhine-Westphalia. I also used to work at a university campus in an area where snow was not unheard of. Well, or at least, they have snow there every once in a while, but it is more the exception than the rule. And there was one particular day in December, I think it was, when the weather report said that there would be a little snowfall, let's say 2 centimeters snow or something like that. And everybody freaked out completely. All the lectures, all the lab courses, everything was cancelled. Instructors, researchers, students, other staff, they were all sent home. There were these pathetic announcements over the speakers that said, just make it home safe, leave everything, just try to reach your home now as soon as possible. Just stay safe out there, folks. I think there was a guy from Minnesota and me, and we were just looking at each other in disbelief. So everybody rushed home. The whole campus was evacuated basically, and then there was 2 centimeters of snow, and it's not even a hilly region where you would have to overcome steep roads or something. No, it was very flat and there was 2 centimeters of snow. Wow, not even an inch. If you want to see a real snow disaster, then, well, maybe look to Japan. In Niigata, for example, in December, not now, but in December last year already, so a couple of weeks ago, they had over the course of 3 days, they had 2 meters of fresh falling snow. So that was an exceptional situation, but even not that exceptional for Japan because they're used to this much snow in many areas, at least because of their geographic location. So as I tried to describe with a couple of examples, depending on where people grew up and how usual, for example, snow is in these areas, people react very differently to snow. I routinely drive over snow. I don't really care. I never had any problems. I never had an accident of any sort. But people from other areas, they freak out, and maybe it's best that they don't drive when they really don't know what they're doing or their cars are not equipped for that. But there is something else that I noticed, and that is an underlying trend, a systematic effect that is just on top of all this individual variation from person to person and from area to area. And that is that phenomena that might not be a daily occurrence, but that really happen every now and then, maybe every odd year, they're seen by the public or the media, the establishment at least, they are presented as being over the top crazy and an indication of XY. Things that were happening for millennia are shown or presented to us as something of an aberration or some negative effect. For example, think of global warming, things that happen all the time, where we have historic documents that tell us that they happened thousands of years ago already, before there were even power plants or something like that. They attribute all that to global warming, even though it happened thousands of years ago already. And people become so sensitive to many things. For example, just 100 years ago, people were living with tuberculosis and they knew that this disease is around, but they still didn't change their daily routine or their careers, or they didn't shut down their businesses because of it. And now a severe case of the sniffles is going around and we shut down complete economies, bankrupting thousands of businesses in the process. And this same very general phenomenon can be seen here with the snow also. There is 10 centimeters of snowfall in an area where that is, well, not unheard of, but kind of rare, and everybody freaks out and they think that the end is nigh. And the more I look at these things, I cannot help but think that this is a general trend. People have the mindset these days that all the parameters around us should be constant and ideal all the time, and every little variation and every little wriggle and every little spike or every little dip in any of those parameters is seen as an absolute catastrophe that must be counteracted or avoided in the future at all costs. No matter how much we destroy in the process, everything needs to be held constant, like the air temperature and the GDP growth and everything, you know? The amount of snowfall in Hamburg must be precisely the same in every year, and it mustn't ever change. And if it changes, then it is a clear proof for the hypothesis that our society is fundamentally sick and humans are just evil. Alright, so that was my brief little take on the funny but actually not so funny phenomenon of the hashtag flockdown in Germany. If you are from the northern hemisphere, let me know if in your country you also experience that phenomenon right now, or if your government is trying to maybe use that for their own little purposes. Let me know in the comments down below. So long. Servus, Kameraden.